All right, so welcome back into the live stream today. It's going to be a good one. We're going to dive into a lot of the things that happened over at the Bitcoin conference here in Miami. A lot of cool stuff, and I think a lot of things that have yet to truly sink in to what is really happening around the evolution of cryptocurrency as a whole. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back into Tech Path. Let's dive into it today, kind of break it all down. You guys, of course, have had a chance to maybe see a lot of the videos coming out from the Bitcoin conference. Obviously, Bitcoin Magazine doing a great job on covering the event. And then just in general, I think social media hopefully gave you guys a lot of insights to what was happening. But there was a lot of updates on this. And one of the ones that I think was most important was the Robinhood releasing their crypto wallet to 2 million users. Plus, they're planning their integration into the Bitcoin Lightning Network. Now, here's the thing with Robinhood. And many of you guys, I'm sure, are, well, I shouldn't say that because probably not many of you are Robinhood users. But the point is that Robinhood is going to have access to and the ability to influence a lot of crypto investors, maybe for the first time. Obviously, remember, Robinhood had kind of cut their teeth with Dogecoin, had done an absolute unbelievable job from a profit side of things with the use of Dogecoin. The question, I think, will be what coins are going to be the next ones that will help Robinhood really kind of take it to the next level. The fact that they have a wallet now, fully functioning, and the fact that they're going to have this partnership with the Lightning Network, I think is going to be pretty cool here. If you look at what they're talking about, Chief Product Officer talked about making an announcement, obviously, over at the event, a handful of wallet beta testers. We had this in our own place here in the Crypto Pit. We were trying to get into it, a lot of it. We test all kinds of apps, but the thing that was interesting was that they were slowly rolling it out. Once that it was implemented, I tested it. I was very, very impressed with how they were going. I'm very intrigued with how this is going to roll out on the Lightning Network. If you look at some of the slides they showed right here, let me kind of zoom out a little bit here. Bitcoin is the #1 recurring buy asset for 2022. So this to me, again, tells people, if you look at Apple, ETH, Tesla, what else is there? Doge. This to me, Amazon, etc. This to me is the indicator, I think, to a lot of these big movers on Wall Street that this is a here to stay kind of scenario. We got a lot to cover today. We definitely want to get your questions, so make sure and put them in the side chat. We'll try to get to them. The big news, of course, was from a company called Strike. We've talked about Jack Mallers before. If you don't know about Strike themselves, they have been involved in redefining payments for quite some time. Obviously, they were the company behind Mr. Bukele and the El Salvador shift to Bitcoin as a payment infrastructure and as now a traditional currency for use within El Salvador. And I think they've continued to really kind of focus in on, I guess in essence, making the payment architecture system work differently. That's really, I think, what Jack Mallers is trying to do. If you look at just kind of how they compare this, their buy and sell, what you get when you get $100 in Bitcoin purchase after fees with Strike, it's $100. Cash App, $97.74, Venmo, and Coinbase, you can kind of see. The key here is, again, it starts to lean into what a lot of people have been talking about for quite some time. What is going to be one of the things that helps critical mass and major adoption happen? Most people and analysts still believe adoption is going to occur through institutional investment. I believe it's probably more a combination of institutional, but more importantly is Main Street. Main Street is going to affect the bedroom communities. The bedroom communities are going to affect mass retail, and then mass retail sways into what's happening in the rest of the world around all of these things. So I think that is going to be a big factor in going forward. Other news that came out was Trezor introducing their direct to self-custody Bitcoin buys, which I think is going to be interesting. We'll start to see probably more and more of these hardware wallets really making pretty significant moves. I'm kind of curious, are you guys more into Trezor, into Ledger, into different styles of wallets, more cold wallets or hot wallets? Are you looking at just holding on exchanges? I'm kind of curious of what you guys are doing. So if you're watching this after the live, just pop the comments down below. But they did announce on stage that they're partnering addition in a simple way for Bitcoin investors to practice the critical security measure of self-custody rather than making their investments on an exchange and leaving their Bitcoin there. So I think that, and we still see this a lot. I use Ledger. That's just my wallet of choice for for those types of transactions. And I still believe that is going to be the future, is really self-custody, much like if you are dealing with I think the future of how finance will be when we see really blockchain integrate into all walks of life. We're going to see a lot more of this kind of thing happening. Let's get to the bigger story, and that was Jack Mallers' stage announcement. Strike announcing their deal with Shopify integration for Bitcoin Lightning payments. But it goes quite a bit deeper than this, and I want to kind of zoom in on a couple of things here. You're going to be able to walk into millions of American storefronts and plug into the payment stalwarts and pay across the Lightning network. Mallers and Strike partnered with NCR, and if you guys don't know who NCR is, essentially they're the biggest point of sale company. And when I say point of sale company, what I mean by that is, think about the terminals when you go into a restaurant, any kind of place of business, and there's that computer sitting in front of you, and your card goes into it or onto the little terminal to the side of it. That's a POS. And those kinds of integrations have been going on for about 3 decades. It's actually how I got started in technology, working with Microsoft, was building on the POS systems, trying to eventually become an e-commerce platform. So what Jack is trying to do is displace what that whole infrastructure has been about for the last 30 years. And he is right. The cost and the problems that infrastructure places on just payments across retail, as well as just any kind of general commerce, is a real situation that I think will, and if we can see this be supplanted by Bitcoin and or cryptocurrency, it starts to change the dynamics around this, and pretty interesting stuff for sure. Also, they've partnered with Blackhawk as well, which I think is, again, going back into companies that really understand where the future of payments are going, for sure. All right, let's get over here to the other one. This was just some of the points that they wanted to make on it. So Bitcoin soon be accepted by McDonald's, Walmart, all that kind of cool stuff. Look at the tweets here that I want to kind of focus on here. This, of course, is Jack Dorsey, former Twitter, and now Block, which is former Square. Thank you, Jack Mallers. You're incredible inspiration. Then you got Pomp coming in. Strike CEO Jack Mallers. Strike just announced partnership with Shopify and leading payment providers. Hundreds of millions of people can now spend Bitcoin dollars across the Lightning Network instantaneously for free at every major U.S. retailer. This is a big deal. And then I think Rand talked about this also. I don't think anyone comprehends the true magnitude of what this announcement was today, because it really does change everything. I would agree with Rand on this, and that is that what we're seeing right now is a seismic shift. Now, many of us don't realize all these things that are happening in our daily lives and where a lot of that cash is going and how much of that cash is being implemented on a general day-to-day basis when you're just out there buying everything you need, from a C-store to a gas station to a restaurant to whatever function you have in real-world payments. Remember, real-world payments, meaning not online, are still 80% of the transactions. So this is big that Strike has been able to pull this off and do it in a way that I think, one, with NCR, and I'll show you some data here in a minute, it'll blow your mind on how big this is and what kind of potential this could have in terms of mass adoption and why it could drive Bitcoin to the moon. Additionally, I talked about it last night on Twitter after crazy parties, just big news. Jack Mallers talking about this. It's a cataclysmic shift in global payments that will normalize crypto. And what I mean by that is that when you think about how people are utilizing payment, remember that every merchant out there, they don't necessarily want to get into crypto. What they're trying to figure out is what's the best way to get a transaction done. Now, you have the Gen Z and the millennials that are starting to understand that banking and also even the idea of fiat is really shifting. If you're into fiat, you understand how inflation is working, your dollar is becoming less worthy, less valued, and your crypto is becoming more valuable. So it's an easy trade-off for most people who are already in this game. The big question is, how is that transition going to occur and help foster the retailers and businesses in the future? And I think this is the play that might make it happen. So lots of stuff. He kind of outlined it here on his video, which is kind of cool. He talks a little bit about the old card networks in play, how many transactions have to go through, and he's exactly right. Is when you are doing a transaction on just a credit card at a point of sale terminal, essentially you've got 3 intermediaries that are managing that transaction. What they're trying to do is eliminate all of that. And if they're successful in doing this, even if they're not successful in the action of doing it, but they're successful in bringing that idea to maybe the major processors in the world, then they've already won, because it's going to reduce the cost, it's going to increase the opportunity for Bitcoin adoption and cryptocurrency adoption, and it's also going to create an opportunity for a lot more blockchain solutions to roll out in the payments. And this gets into, if you control the money, you control the population kind of theory, and has been this for quite some time. So you don't want to sleep on this one. This one is a very intriguing aspect. I think to me, it's stunning that we're seeing Bitcoin not respond. But at the same time, we're inside the circle here. We're inside the bubble. I don't yet think that the companies, where this will start to play out is when the payment networks start to release all of this Johnny-come-lately type PR and strategies that will then bring in mom and pop America, will start to bring in the retailers, will start to bring in the amount of companies that will start to admit and accept these kind of components when it comes to payment transactions. I want to thank our sponsor today, and then of course it's iTrust Capital. If you guys are not looking at long-term investments in your portfolios, you should be. And one of the things I do and have always done is really hung with looking at Bitcoin as a long-term play. And if you are looking at doing that, jump over to iTrust Capital, make sure and use our link below, because it does help out the channel. And best of all, it gets you into thinking long-term, because if you're a young investor, you should be thinking long-term. Even if you're an older investor, even above the age of 50, one, you have the advantage to put a little bit more in it. But even though with that and how fast Bitcoin has the opportunity to move here, even older investors can really magnify on this. So we still have just a few weeks left before you could actually you can still take the tax advantage. So jump into this. Make sure, remember, not tax advice, but you should always check with your CPA or your accountant on how you can implement your own crypto IRA. So iTrust, definitely the one I would use. I want to jump additionally over to some other news here. And this is a piece on Ripple. And interestingly enough, will Ripple's price decline as it faces competition from established players like MasterCard? This to me was a little bit of, I won't say a joke, but I look at MasterCard as well as other companies like MasterCard, Visa, American Express, and the traditional payment rails that have been out there for 3 decades. These are and will most likely be companies that will have solutions. Their speed to market will be, I think, a little bit lower and slower, but also I just don't necessarily think they're going to transplant what we've already seen blockchain do in a very short period of time. Now, mass adoption and partnerships, I would put Ripple up against anybody when you think about what they're doing from an aspect of really kind of a Swift replacement. That's a different strategy. But this kind of goes into my whole thesis here on where payments are going in the future. The fact that we're seeing MasterCard start to challenge in this position means the writing's on the wall. We are going to see more and more of this kind of going in this direction. The other aspect to this is we'll see more of this. Cash App users can now invest their paychecks into Bitcoin. Again, remember Cash App Block, formerly Square. Now you'll be able to automatically invest a portion or the entirety of your direct deposit paychecks into Bitcoin. And I've talked about this on the show before, is that whoever comes up with this solution on a direct to Bitcoin transaction, at the same time still solving the problem of the 941s, which are your quarterly tax payments from a business that's paying you as an employee or as a contractor, those kinds of transactions happen usually through traditional payroll houses. I think there's some companies out there that are starting to make this bridge this gap And when that occurs, you're going to see another influx of a massive amount of millennials and Gen Zs taking their paychecks in cryptocurrency. So be watching for that one as well. Let's get over to another one here. And of course, this kind of gets back to my point here, is that Visa's crypto product lead leaves for a payment startup. So this is my issue, is that you are going to see a lot of the young talent in a lot of these old companies, because remember, prior to what Strike has been doing and Square and, Block has been doing, a lot of these kinds of payment companies have not necessarily existed. So there hasn't been a lot of career paths for people in the fintech world, because they've been in the old fintech world trying to make this bridge into Bitcoin and or to blockchain. So I think we'll continue to see more and more of these defections kind of moving out. And what this guy did was he jumped over to this company right here. This is a company called Ansible Labs, and basically they are in the same kind of position. I want you to notice something right here. Digital payments experts from the team behind Visa Direct. So again, this gets back to my point, is that what we'll see and are seeing is a potential onslaught of people and talent. They're going to be coming away from the old system because it's just going to move too slow. This happened in Web 2, from Web 1 to Web 2. It's happened before. We'll see it happen again, except now it's mostly focused in on the payment and the monetary aspect of how cryptocurrency is going to change the planet. 40%, furthermore, 40% of youngsters want to use crypto for payments. This is according to some new research. This goes back into it, guys. This is an 18 to 35 report right here. This is my point, is that we're dealing with a next evolution of consumers. The millennials, younger millennials, and the Gen Zs are starting to break out. We'll see that for the next decade. Then they will become the older millennials, much like the Gen X are right now, but much smaller demographic. Millennials and Gen Z, once those get fully mature into earning years and start to shift into management positions, this is a dynamic shift that we have not seen since the boomers really took over. And that is what Mahler was talking about a lot, is the evolution of all these old systems that have just been there forever and nobody's really challenged status quo. So I think the fact that we've continued to see this kind of movement right here in terms of people adopting crypto and moving into it, just a matter of time. And again, if you're watching our channel, you are way out in front of this. So the good thing is that you are way out in front of this. And I think this is something that we will continue to see people like you. And also, maybe if you're new to crypto and you're new to our channel, the whole idea is educating yourself, getting behind and understanding how blockchain works, what this means for not only payments, but so much more around our everyday life. So a lot happening out there. Let's talk about KYC for a second, because this is one that really concerns me. And when you think about KYC, a lot of people say, well, hey, Paul, and this is people that I talk to on an ongoing basis. Paul, listen, you've got crypto is for criminals. Crypto is this, crypto is that. It's a place to do, money laundering, all these kind of things that people are looking at. And I often will say, listen, the biggest scam we've ever had has been the dollar. That's been the easiest black market utility that's ever been out there. And KYC is very intriguing because KYC in the past has been very private. You go to your bank, you put out KYC. What that simply means is that's protected by all these credit laws, by all these banking laws that has been there for years and years and years. When you get into KYC on the blockchain, I want you to know something this here. KYC exists for a reason, fighting money laundering, all that good stuff. In conventional benefits, banks don't want to do and serve criminal scammers, so that's why KYC is there. But cryptocurrency is built on a trustless basis, which means you don't need to know someone who have confidence in the transaction, okay? The other aspect behind this is there's another twist, because crypto transactions are traceable and trackable on the blockchain. You're now breaking crypto's anonymity, which is meaning that you could break that KYC element. So imagine if your bank account was out there open to all, open to everybody on the blockchain. That's essentially what we're talking about here. So when we look at KYC, there's going to have to be a very interesting connection between KYC and how this goes in the future. And I think that will come with a crypto ID of some sort. And Polygon, I know, is working on this right now. I think we'll see much more blockchain developed ID as opposed to true KYC that will open up onto the blockchain itself. I think a lot of that is going down in this direction for sure. This is something that they were talking about. This is a company called Parallel Markets recently proposed a system where participants load their personality, identifiable information in an encrypted form onto the blockchain. Unlocking it for financial institutions, monitoring and screening could happen similarly with periodic reviews and so on. So it's possible that this could work. And I think with the amount of smart people we have in the space, this is going to be a reality. And it will also help leverage the gap between the banks and where the current institutions are. The question is where the fallout is going to be, because I think that is when we start to see banks maybe cross over into the exchange world and exchanges maybe crossing over into the banking world. It's going to get exciting, I think, for consumers out there for sure. All right, more to kind of wrap up on this. Visa should be scared. Lightning Labs raises $70 million. Remember, $70 million, not a lot of money. But when you think about the teams and the amount of work that can be done in blockchain, remember, this is a whole new cycle of global developers, global teams, global project management. It's a different model than what $70 million used to buy in Silicon Valley. What it would buy in Silicon Valley is probably 1/10 of what it can buy on the global stage in terms of development. So when you think about this, I look at 70 million and I say that's more like 700 million in terms of potential for Lightning Labs and what they might be able to do around stablecoins and the integration of this. So software firm Lightning Labs secured a large funding round, enable further development on Lightning Network for faster and cheaper Bitcoin stable. This is all getting back to what Mahler's is trying to do. The 70 million Series B was led by Valor. And then you've got Goldcrest in this one. And then the idea is stablecoin transactions made possible by the Taproot upgrade. This was in November. The firm believes that Taro will enable the further development and of Bitcoin adoption as it potentially allows the unbanked in developing countries. And again, remember, we're talking about, kind of the traditional US based, but most of our channel viewers are actually international. And a lot of our channel viewers are coming more and more from emerging countries, including South America. We've got the Middle East, as well as Asia, really growing in terms of our overall viewership. And I think that's what we'll continue to see on a global aspect. Remember, Visa understands what this global market looks like. If I were Visa, I'd be scared because there's a lot of people out there that have mobile phones, which goes to mobile banking, and now don't want to tap into the traditional system. This is the peer-to-peer payment system. This is what Bitcoin and cryptocurrency is all about. This is changing in a big way in a very fast process. All right, last up here, I want to just kind of get into a couple of other things, and that is NCR. Now, why did Strike partner up with NCR? Now, when you think about it, you've got Shopify in the partnership. That's retail in the sense of e-commerce. But when you look at retail, 80% of payments still happening in person. What's the next opportunity? Well, it's a company like NCR. Right here, NCR named world's largest point-of-sale software supplier 5 years in a row, okay? This is why Strike went this route. 56% of all new point-of-sale installations in grocery sector right now controlled by NCR. And if you look at some of the data here, this is where it gets really interesting on just overall. I want to kind of flow through some of this. The credit card market itself, these are data points that start to get staggering. Credit card industry, big business obviously dominates it, okay? Credit card industry is holding right now $974 billion in credit card debt. This is the end of 2020. But here's a number right here that I want you to pay attention to. 45 billion credit card transaction by four major networks, accounting for $4 trillion. This is exactly what we're talking about around the future of payments. And this is why blockchain is really in a very, very interesting place right now as we see this blow up, I think, into some pretty interesting times in the very near future. Again, the last thing I want to kind of talk about is just more bullishness around this, and then we'll get to our quick some quick questions and also take a look at where Bitcoin is. Let's talk about this. Elon Musk, Tesla has agreed to do a solar-powered Bitcoin mining facility in Texas in a partnership with Block, formerly Square. Notice all this tying into anything? You've got Elon buying into Twitter, now sitting on the board, even though he got a little trouble with the SEC for that one. That was a little smooth move, kind of asking for forgiveness. And you've got, of course, Blockstein coming into this with Adam Block told the outlet $12 million in a project supposed to prove that Bitcoin mining is capable of funding zero-emission power infrastructure. If this gets, think about timing here too, because there's some timing elements here. We're getting close to our elections coming up in the next 18, 24 months. You've got a whole slew of new evolution occurring. I think we're also dealing with a very interesting timing around if we could see a little bit of an implosion in the traditional markets and when that might happen, probably for another video. But the point is, if they can achieve a essence of ESG, kind of release in the sense of saying, hey, Bitcoin is definitely not going to be a problem in terms of long-term green aspects, it only leans into the political landscape. So now you tie in financial, political, and massive adoption. You have recreated what is a new financial system, and that's when a reserve currency changes. This is something we haven't seen, and I think you guys might be sitting in a front row seat right now to check it out. All right, last up is where is Bitcoin? Let's talk a little bit about it. As you guys know, if you're not in to our CPI, you should be. Just jump over to paulbaronnetwork.com. You'll find it. You can click on Crypto Power Index up there. You'll see the top crypto that we track currently on historical, Bitcoin being our leader. And we look at this on amplification right now. This was scored out here on Friday. We dropped these data points on Fridays and also again on Monday morning. So you'll see another one on Monday. Slightly up on the amplification for Bitcoin, so that's good, even though Bitcoin is falling a little bit. And then here's the issue right here. Overall market sentiment is down, which is the thing that I see that is the precursor that causes a token to move downward. This is what we're seeing right now, is the overall is down. And then if you look at sentiment, slightly up. So what this tells me is we're probably going to see a nice little dip, and then we're going to see an interesting move on Bitcoin. So these are the kind of things that we're watching constantly on these charts. The cool thing is with the power index, you're going to get this twice a week. You can log in, you'll see the historical, and you can also look at Ethereum, BNB, Ripple, of course, as we track these. There's Solana right now, still trending up right now, even though market is trending down. Then you've got Luna also trending up slightly, market trending down. We do all this, and we're getting ready to release another set of index coins, which is where we do the historical analysis. So make sure to click the link below if you guys want to get into the Power Index. Let's take some questions and dive into it today. All right. There is a poll, though. Let's take a look at the poll today. Bringing in, a nice Bitcoin poll. I like that one. Yes. All right. So would you use Bitcoin to pay for retail? Yes, if it's easy. No, Bitcoin's for investing. 51%. That's an interesting split right there, though, 51 to 49. Think of this, guys. If Bitcoin does go to a currency, and if you're looking at short-term movement, investing versus an actual use case for a store of value, it's no different than a currency, right? So I think we've got a little bit of a split audience on that. I'm intrigued with that one. So kudos to you guys. You guys are watching. You definitely are watching what's happening out there in the market. All right, let's take a look at it. Sam Bigot, why would I create a taxable event for Big Mac? So the point here on taxable events is the way that Strike has approached this is different. It's not, the way I understand it is it's not creating a taxable event because the voodoo that is occurring is inside. It's doing a conversion. Think of it as a swap. It's doing a conversion to US dollars. So it's much like what happens in El Salvador when you pay via Bitcoin as a transaction, and then it's converting into USD right there in the cloud before it actually hits the retail merchant. So that is the challenge. I think a lot of people look at this, and we've seen a couple of people do some breakdowns on this. I think we will want to do a little bit more of a deep dive on that to give you guys an understanding of that. I'd love to get Jack Mahlers on the show and his tech lead to talk about this, because I think a lot of people are misunderstanding what this really means in crypto payments. So be on the lookout for that. Sky Limitless, I do want to ask an alternative to Bitcoin payment method. What's your take on Tornado Cash, Nano XRP, etc.? Do you see them as a better fit? I think we will see a handful of tokens rise to the occasion in the format of optional payment solutions. When we think of a global infrastructure of payment, if you think about it today, if you had an app that could trade or buy anything with the global coins, Australian dollars, Canadian dollars, the ECNY, the yen, etc., if you had access to all of those to be able to utilize every single one at any given time and be able to convert that in the app itself to a dollar, US dollar, or whatever currency that particular country takes, you have just reformatted the entire financial system. So why couldn't you do that with the format of a variety of cryptocurrencies that would flow into that? So I think Sky Limitless, it could happen. XRP could be in there. There could be many others. Solana, with what they're doing with Solana Pay, a lot happening there. All right. Tyler, right now I spend USDC. Oh, that just moved. Let me get up there. Yeah. Right now I spend my USDC via my crypto debit cards, goods and services. Same thing with me. USDC to me is my bank account. I will do that often. I use a lot of those that you get rewards on, which some of these debit cards now are the crypto debit cards are giving you rewards on these, which are just insane. Some of these are getting ridiculous. Crypto.com's got one that I still am amazed how they're able to pull it off. All right, Victor F. Why is a price of Bitcoin going down? Yeah, okay, so let's talk about that. That's what I was just talking about there, is I don't know that people truly understand, Victor, what happened this week. This is going to take some time to, one, really sink in to traditional investors. Those true savvy ones right now are waiting for this little dip, because it is a time that they are going to jump in and, as we say here in the crypto pit, take it in like an orca whale and just gobble it up. Anyway, so cool stuff. All right, so there's another one. I think Strike is cool, but this is one of those announcements that will take a few months. Yeah, I agree with you guys. Definitely on that. Will it be a sell-off to do to tax paying? Well, that's not really, I mean, your tax events are going to occur through the end of the year, so not really applicable. I don't know your tax position, but you know, if you're doing anything right now, it won't happen until the end of the year. How are these companies going to make money? This is an interesting on DSlice that you're talking about here. This is where, much like your exchanges are working on the arbitrage of how they are handling the swap. And I think that's where the transaction percentages, though Strike has yet to fully reveal that would be something I would like to see, because I think that would dispel a lot of the scenarios that people think, well, are we just trading 3%, three-person intermediary for one person that's now going to have control of that? That is a question that has to be addressed. And I think for a lot of these payment companies, they will have to become much more transparent, much more so than Visa, MasterCard, American Express, and all the others, Card Services International, all these merchant companies that are kind of moving in this direction have been so far. Kryptonian, Fidelity doesn't let you transfer iTrust Capital. Okay, so a lot of these, remember, most of your crypto IRAs, not financial advisor, usually have to start up within that IRA itself. And I think this is applicable to most all of them. Some of them are transferable depending on the kind of IRA that you have. So, but just get with them. They'll help you get through that. All right. Sam, no amount of voodoo will help the massive circumvent the IRS. I don't think anybody's trying to circumvent any IRS laws at all. I think this is going to be a very simple solution that will continue to comply with all IRS regulations. This, in fact, probably will only make it easier for tax authorities to ensure that we are not seeing. Imagine if you're paying cash, that's a lot of times it's what they call the gray and the black market. It's been in the industry forever. This would almost eliminate that. That's why credit card and debit card has been such a success. When you look at over 90% of payments now with credit and debit. So I think it eliminates that, much like what credit and debit has done. So I don't think we're going to see any of that kind of little movement around. Doge, lots of Doge in here. Spend cash, not assets. I like all of these statements, guys. Definitely, we're going to see a lot of movement. This is one day old. I think the light has been turned on how to utilize software and the cloud and the blockchain to reposition how payment architecture could be done. The point will be this, and that is Mahler may go down as the guy who gave the idea up. And much like a Tim Berners-Lee, you probably don't even know who that is. That's the guy that pretty much created the World Wide Web. And his whole function was pretty much gave it up for free. He helped respond it to the world and opened it up to essentially create what we know is the internet today. So I think Mahler's may go down into that era of opening up an idea, opening up a Pandora's box that really unleashes a lot of traditional, that's the worry I have, traditional powerhouses to just pour money after money after money to recreate that whole payment architecture, which is due for a recreation anyway. So lots happening out there, guys, for sure. Make sure and tune in on our live streams. You've got to subscribe to the show. So all you have to do is just hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell. You'll get notifications when we do this kind of live streams like this. You'll also help the channel out itself. It helps us understand what you like, what you don't like. And of course, make sure and leave some comments below. If you want to hit me up on Twitter, it's @PaulBaron. We'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.